Hello, my dear students of Benguet State University. Welcome to our online class. I am your teacher, Jan Lasea. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my lecture in our laboratory subject of Systems Integration in Architecture 2. Today I discuss add and save a record of the laboratory hands-on activity number 12 entitled Save a Record, Sign Up. When you open up the signup.html, it does not have tag headers such as head, link, and body tags. It is because the load command opens and inserts the contents of signup.html to the center panel in the body tag of the file index.html. The HTML codes that display the membership registration form is inside the signup.html file under the div class name container, and inside the form ID name add member form with post method and action add.php. Next, let us focus our attention on the two graphical user interface image and file input browser down below. I named the add ID picture of the image GUI, and its use is to load the browse picture file and place at the image GUI. The add ID picture is referenced inside the body of the function load image that we will see on the next slide. I named the name add file to upload, and it is referenced inside the body of the add.php, and its use is to get the contents of the browse picture file and store to the server in the upload temp directory that I set on the php.ini file. Every time you click the choose file button and open up a picture file, it triggers the onChange event and performs the action load image function call. Next, inside the contents of the signup.html file, I wrote the JavaScript codes that are written below. Here is the definition of the function load image. The purpose of this function is to load and browse the picture file and place the picture at the image graphical user interface. Note the add ID picture is referenced in this line, and the object img is instantiated. The command img.source is equal to temppath is the command that placed the picture at the image GUI. Next, let us focus our attention on the two graphical user date picker and input mask. Inside the document ready event function, there are JavaScript codes that will set up the date picker to initialize at the start to contain the current date of the client computer, and set up the input mask to have 3 digits input number and will not accept other characters such as alphabets, punctuations, and special characters. Next, every time you click the save button, it triggers the submit event of the add member form and performs the action compare and check if both the new password and verified password are matched or are the same. If the new password does not match the verified password, it displays an alert message box, and afterwards it does not yet save or store the new member function, the new member information. Next, if we click the save button and both the new password and verified password are matched or are the same, then it displays confirm box, prompting the user a question, do you really want to save member record? If we choose the yes button, then it invokes the save member function. Next, here is the definition of the function save member, and the codes are inside the containing AJAX codes. The client computer sends the member form data to the web server by referencing the URL add.php file and data form data. The web server executes the file add.php to add and save a record. The client computer waits for the response of the web server. When the web server responds to the client computer, the response could be success or error. If the response is success, then the client CPU executes the success function and displays an alert box containing the results, such as the record is stored successfully, or the record is failed to store, or that record exists. If the member profile does not exist in the database, then it adds and stores the new member, and the value of the variable exists is no. Afterwards, it redirects to the home.html and it closes the membership registration form and displays my wallpaper at the center panel. Next, the web server executes the file add.php to add and save a record. If the user browses and opens a picture file, then the condition in the if statement is true. The web server gets the contents of the picture file and upload to the web server's upload temp directory that was set up in the php.ini file. The variable $textid picture points to the contents of the picture file. Otherwise, the variable $textid picture is set to a null value. The $post command is an action to the web server that will access the input data from the form data sent by the client computer. I declared many memory variables in PHP to store them. The MySQL or MariaDB database engine has a standard date format, which is year followed by dash followed by month followed by dash followed by day. The PHP built-in function str2time converts a string to date, and the date function formats the date into y-m-d format. Next, the variable $XML data contains the XML document package that the web server will send to the client computer as a result for the add and save a record processes. I name output as an object package for the XML document that the AJAX will find and filter when the web server replied successfully to the client computer. The variables $message and $isMemberExist contain the results to be packaged in the XML document that the web server will send to the client computer. The variable $server is set to localhost, $user is set to root, $db password is set to my password, Lasea 922043. $database is set to bank, and $encryption key is set to my key, Lasea 2016. Next, I created a class named database which is located in the file database.php. The variable $memberdb is instantiated as a database object and initializes its property values for the server, user, and database password. The method connect is invoked in the condition of the if statement to connect the client computer to the web server computer in a computer network environment. If the connection is successful, then it selects the database name bank and grants access its tables, such as member and user tables. Before we add and save the member profile, check first if the member already exists. If the member does not exist, then the web server CPU will invoke the save member function that adds and saves the new member, search ID number function that retrieves the generated ID number, and save user account function that adds and saves the user account of the new member. Otherwise, the variable $message is set to that record exists, and the variable $isMember exists is set to yes. Next, the following codes set up the XML document package to be sent by the web server to the client computer. When the four echo commands are executed by the web server CPU, then the web server completed the processes of the add.php. Focus your attention on the sample XML document package sent to the client computer down below. Under the document tag, the object output tag contains the result. The record is stored successfully. Exists and exists. No. Next, this is the definition of the function check existing member that determines if the member exists in the database. The reason why we need to check existing member are avoid duplication of data or data redundancy and maintain integrity of data. I assume that you learned structured query language or SQL in the database management system subject. To find or search information, we apply the select from where clause. The variable $SQL contains the SQL query. Select asterisk from member where first name is equal to $text first and middle name is equal to $text middle and last name is equal to text $text last. The method execute performs or executes the query. The method getRows collects the records that match the query. If the $member query is not null and the condition is true, then it retrieves one row of record, and if there is a row record, then it exists and returns true. Otherwise, it returns false and the member does not exist. Next, this is the definition of the function save member that adds and saves a record in the database. To add and save a record, we apply the insert into values clause. The variable $SQL contains the SQL query insert into member values. The method execute performs the query and returns the result. If the $result is not equal to 0 is true, then the record is stored successfully. Otherwise, the record is failed to store. Next, this is the definition of the function search ID number that retrieves the ID number of the added and stored new member. In the member registration form, there is no input for the ID number. In the table member, I place a property auto increment on the field name ID number. That means every time we add and save a record, the MySQL or the MariaDB database engine generates an ID number starting at counting number 1. We apply the select from where clause to search the newly added member by first name, middle name, and last name. If found, then it retrieves the auto-generated ID number and store it to the variable $text ID number. Next, this is the definition of the function save user account that adds and stores the user account of the new member. The retrieved ID number together the username and password of the new member will be stored in the user table. The username and password are encrypted using the MySQL built-in function AES encrypt. I have posted your second laboratory hands-on exercise in our Google Classroom. Please answer them and accomplish it. Write your questions and comments down below or post it in our Google Classroom. That ends our topic for today. I hope you have learned in my class. Thank you for watching. God bless us.